She's the author of a new book called whoops, wrong side, Create and Manifest Your Vision, Intention and Goal Setting Workbook, just in time for the new year. So thank you so much for doing this interview with us today, Rachel. All right, Rachel, let's get into this. First of all, tell us who this book is for.
When I work with people as a health coach, one of our biggest things is number one, figuring out what is your vision, what is it that you want, and then setting goals around that, and then action steps, and then, of course, accountability. A new year is always a great time to set new intentions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's always the time where we're setting New Year's resolutions and new goals. This year is going to be the best ever. How often have we said that, right? And then about halfway through, we're like, where has the year gone? I've done absolutely nothing. I'm in exactly the same space. So this book was written for people who have a tough time maybe setting those goals, and want that actual support. So this book is for those who want to keep it all together and just to really organize the thoughts, organize the goals, and then have some organization and direction for action steps and actually how to accomplish those things.
Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like it's like just baby steps, taking it step by step, because there's a bit of a process. It's not just about setting that goal. I want to read 100 books or whatever. That's easy. But, taking you through those steps. So talk about how this book reflects your own journey in goal setting and manifestation.
Okay, that's a great question. I hate setting goals. That's what's interesting about writing this book is that I need things like this in order for me to also stay organized in my goals. I'm really great at setting big goals, big dreams and big goals because I'm such a big picture thinker. But where I'm not so good at is the small baby steps sometimes. I use this book and I plan on using this new version of this book myself because I need to also hone in on my goals and drop down and bring it into those steps, right? And then how I've organized the book this time is it's also not only setting your goals, but it's also a reflection. Okay, you're 3 months in, look back. Do you need to adjust? Where have you come from? Like, where are you now? And that's part of what's so important is that it's great to look at the big dream. And then in December, you go, oh, wait, instead of, every 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, look back and say, hey, wait a minute, am I on the right path? Right. I had a coach once that said, even a 1 degree difference or a 1 degree off track can take you way off track, at the end point of the goal. But if you can just constantly look back and look in and say, okay, wait a minute, I'm getting off track here. What did I set a month ago? How can I readjust and move forward to where I really want to go?
And maybe that reflection back, you realize, okay, well, maybe that's not the goal I really wanted. I need to adjust. So maybe that off track is the track that you really want to be on, kind of thing. So that's really interesting. So goals is a big deal, and there's all kinds of different ways to set goals, but you really emphasize aligning your goals with personal values in the book. Share why this alignment is critical for long-term success.
So values, of course, are things that mean a lot to us. It makes no sense to set goals that don't actually connect with or mean anything to you. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but I think sometimes a person will set a big goal. I'm just going to use this as an example. Like, I want to be filthy rich, right? I want to have a big time career. I want to do this and that. And then they go, wait a minute, what I actually have to do to get to that end goal doesn't align with what I really value, right? Like, for example, let's say somebody wants to be a CEO of a company. Well, then when they start looking and go, wait a minute, I have to be away from my family for 15 hours a day. Well, wait, family is one of my biggest goals and one of my biggest values. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's probably not a goal I should set. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'll use another example of weight loss. I keep people that come to me sometimes as a health coach and go, I want 6-pack abs. And then I say, okay, wait a minute here. While we're setting goals, here's a little rundown of what it's going to take to actually get 6-pack abs. Is this important to you? And there was a quote by, Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren.
Yeah. And she said, I would rather eat pasta and drink wine than be a size 0. And And that actually resonates with me because, just, having six packs abs seems all good and great, but again, what you have to do to get there might not align with your values. If you're a foodie and you love food and you love to cook and
Hmm.
you love to bake, maybe six pack abs isn't in your future. It's all good and great to set goals, but if you don't know your why,
Hmm.
then your goal likely won't happen, right? It's easy to say, I want to lose weight, but why? Well, I don't know, just because I want to lose weight. Well, that's not going to keep you focused on your goal when times get tough,
Yeah.
right? Where if you were to, get down to the real emotions of it and say, well, there's people who are like, well, I want to be healthy because I want to see my grandkids grow up. Well, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big reason where it's a lot easier to say, okay, I'm not going to eat that or I'm going to get up and move because if that's a big deal. Like as a vegan personally, for me to say, I'm not going to eat whatever because it's a strong value for me and it's strong,
Hmm.
it's a strong why for me. It makes it so much easier when your why is that strong. When there's nothing anyone could do to convince you otherwise, then you have a strong why.
And so, how do you suggest people get to that why?
Yeah, and that's a really good question too, Cara, because that activity is in the book. So essentially, if you're sitting down in the book or you're doing this process with me as your health coach, I would say, what is your goal? What is your main goal? And just that would be kind of the surface goal. And then I would ask why? Why do you want that? And then the client would answer why. And then you'd say, well, why do you want that? And then you'd answer why. And then why do you want that? And it seems kind of like a tedious process, but you can see that activity in the book. Like I have you fill out why about 10 times because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to the emotion of that why. Right. So I encourage, my clients or anybody who's working in this activity that this is not going to an activity that happens in one sitting. This is
Mm,
usually an
mhm.
activity that you kind of come back to and go, okay, I'm here now. Why again? Why again? So, I learned this kind of strategy a long time ago from one of my coaches who said, you're at your true why when tears come to your eyes and emotion wells up when you say, this is why I want it. Because, he at that time said, the only time you will stay focused on your goals in the face of all sorts of distractions and hardships is when that emotional connection is there with
Mhm.
your why.
How do you help your clients maintain that momentum throughout the whole year? Because this book is to help guide you throughout the whole year. So
Right.
how do they, how do we keep them going, keep them motivated?
Every single month is actually a new theme and it's a new learning opportunity and it's meant to really keep a person engaged in the process, not just, okay, I'm setting another goal, I'm setting another goal, I'm setting
Mm,
another goal, because
mhm.
that gets really mundane and boring. Maybe the first month you're focusing on your values, then the next month you're focusing on actually setting your why, and then the next month you're looking at something else. What are some of the activities, some of the ways to stay connected to your goals? So it's meant to be almost like a support system, right? So that if, let's say, somebody can't afford or doesn't have a health coach or doesn't have a buddy, somebody to take them through, I kind of thought that this book could be somebody's buddy in that sense, is that
Yeah.
it's there to take you through. And then in conjunction with the book, I've released a masterclass actually that I'm going to start on January 7th. And the whole
Oh,
purpose of the
fantastic.
masterclass is that we have a monthly call so that we can go through some of the information that you've learned or gone through in the book. We can discuss some of the goals and kind of, keep it as an accountability partner.
Yeah, and accountability partners are gold. I mean, you and I have been accountability partners when it comes to fitness, so and that has really helped to motivate both of us, I know for sure. Can you share an example of a small action that someone can do today to move forward towards their goals?
It's the baby steps that count. The
Mhm.
big goals, we've got the big dream, we've got the big goals, whether that's, let's say, the 12-month goal, the full year to get you through. Then you want to kind of look back and go, okay, we've got 12 months in the year. Then we kind of break it down into months, which is what I do in the book. But then we want to break it down even more. Now we've got 4 weeks in every month. What are those weeks going to look like? How's that going to be structured? And then we've got 7 days in every week. So it's kind of like moving backwards. So I'll use an example here. So let's say you've got somebody who wants to lose weight. Again, I'll use that example because it's just such a common one for,
Hmm.
the first of the year. Let's say a person has 30 pounds they want to lose in a year. Well, you break that down into how much of that is in a month. Then if I was to work with somebody, I'd say, okay, now it's the action steps that are going to get there.
Hmm.
Okay, so how many days a week realistically can you move? Okay, well, I'm going to move 3 times a week. I'm going to do a certain amount, 30 to 60 minutes. Great. Now, then we break it down and then you say, okay, what if there's a day that you don't feel like showing up 100%,
Mm.
right? On that day, can you show up 50%? Because
Yeah.
consistency for setting goals and making and reaching our goals is so key. And it's trying to get out of that all or none. And of course, all this comes
Hmm.
from personal experience as well. Learning those lessons, going, okay, well, if I can't do an hour of exercise today because I don't have time, I'm not doing anything. Or because I can't rock it out because my energy is low, it's okay to be able to just show up and go through the motions. At least you're moving your body.
So learning how to break down, those small action steps, is that what I'm hearing?
And again, this is because I've learned this from years of getting coaching myself, is that it's not always about the end game, that it's
Hmm.
about the journey,
Yes.
right? So that, again, let's say you've used the information and the activities in the book, in 12 months from now, you can look back and go, oh, wait, I did all these activities. Look where I was in January. The journey has gotten me to a certain place. Maybe I didn't hit my target. Maybe I did, but yet look what I've learned about myself, on this journey. And then I can readjust and start all over again the next year.
And the thing is after a year, you're not stopping doing the things that you have learned. Maybe they've become second nature. Maybe it's just there to remind you, this is the way I need to talk to myself, or this is the mindset I need to adopt, past the year. This is just setting you up for long-term or lifetime habits.
Well, absolutely. And then at the end of the year, it's a bit of an audit, right? It's a
Mhm.
sense where you could sit down and say, okay, another year now has passed. As we all
Yeah.
know, time is precious. We're all heading in the same direction, and it goes by faster and faster every year. Where I actually, there was a guy that I learned from years ago, and he said him and his wife every year, New Year's Eve, they sit down and they audit their relationship. They audit where they were
Ooh,
a
that's
year ago, and they ask each other, do we still want to move forward in what we're doing? And I was like, whoa, like think if everybody did that,
real talk.
right? But yet I kind of
Yeah.
use that concept going, okay, at the end of the year, I often do that. I look back and reflect and go, did I actually do what I wanted to do this year? A lot of the times the answer is no, because I have so many things I want to do. But yet
Hmm.
you can still look back and again use that book as a journal and a frame of reference to go, okay, here's where I was in January. Here's where I am in December. What did I not do? What did I do? How can I take that into the next year? Because the years are just going to continue to come.
What if somebody says, I'm good. I'm good with all the things. I don't have any goals. Could this book still benefit them? Or what would you say to somebody who
That's a good question.
says they have no goals?
I'd say to somebody, if you don't have any goals right now, no problem. Crack the book open, start reading, and see what comes to you.
Yeah, get you
And
inspired.
I might be inspired to look at one area. I had a friend of mine say to me years ago, and I would say, how come this isn't happening? How come this isn't happening? I'm so strong in this, I'm so strong in that. And he just said, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And which is where the wellness wheel activity comes in the book. The wellness wheel is set up like that. If you think about it, you're really strong in this area, but you're not so good in this area. The wheel's
Hmm.
just not going to turn properly, so that we can kind of always look and audit and evaluate. Okay, I might be strong over here, but how strong am I over here? Yeah.
What would you say to someone who is maybe overwhelmed by the idea of having these big goals that they need to accomplish? What kind of advice would you give them?
Start small. Let's say you are somebody who doesn't drink any water at all, or you just sip it once in a while. Then I would say, great, half a liter in the morning, start with that. And if you did nothing else, that's a great start
Yeah.
because, habits only come from doing them over and over again. And so it's kind of like developing some of those habits. And actually, again, that's
Mhm.
an activity in the book. There's a habit tracker in the book as well, going, okay, what are some of those habits that I can pair with other habits that I'm already doing? You brush your teeth, throw your supplements in the bathroom. Before you brush your teeth, take your supplements. But the thing is, it is overwhelming. It is a lot having to
Mhm.
put everything in. You know, I often say, I don't know how people have full-time jobs, full-time families, trying to get workouts in, trying to do that. I just don't know where the hours in the day come in, right?
Yeah.
So if you're overwhelmed, just stop, and go, okay, according to my values, what is most important?
Mm.
Number one, okay, my family's most important. Great. You know, what can I cut out to make sure I'm spending more time with my family?
Yeah.
You know, what is not serving me in this moment? Great, cut that out. But I think it's
Yeah.
coming back to the basics and just saying, what can I fit in? What can I do now? Because again, like we talked about, those simple, tiny little steps
Yeah.
over the year, when you look back, all of a sudden, one tiny little step that seemed like nothing has turned into 30 pounds lost in a year, right?
So it's like, give yourself some grace. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Lots of trial and error, right? You've got to figure out what works for you. But at the top of all of that would be why. Remember what your values are. Remember what your why is. That's because that's kind of like the guiding, the direction, the person that's the thing that's directing you in the right way. Anyone who picks up this book is going to get some really great information, some really great guidance to kick off their 2025. Thank you again, Rachel. Again, the book is Create and Manifest Your Vision, Intention, and Goal Setting Workbook, available on Amazon. Check it out. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thank you.